Thank you all so much for being here. I think we're all here for the same reason, right? My name is Nick Giovanazzi. I'm the Director of Programs for Pasadena Heritage. We'd like to warmly welcome you to our headquarters, the historic Blinn House. We will be presenting this in the original living room in front of a fireplace completely made out of art glass. So after the program, if you have a moment to really peek around a little bit more and enjoy some of the features of the home, we welcome it. Again, we are here tonight for Andy. Not much to say other than he's been taking pictures for quite a while.
Did you mean about 70 years by then?
We don't want to give it all away, do we? But definitely we're here to talk about the road. We're here to tell some stories. And also, it's going on to the centennial of Route 66. We were looking, we meaning me, meaning Pasadena Heritage, meaning, I think all of us looking for kind of stories like this. That's why we're here. Just for something a little bit more alternative to the traditional takes on the theme. And when I got the chance to speak with Andy, and he was like, okay. I was like, great, thank you so much. And then we're here tonight. And without any further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Andy.
But when I said okay, I didn't mean all you guys. Oh my God, what a turnout. Thank you all for coming, whoever you are. So I am here to talk about life in small towns and on two-lane roads, because I think it's important stuff. It's stuff that I value and treasure. And I want to develop some themes about that, but I want to start by showing a video that we made. Bob, do you know when?
Which one is it?
It's a picture in Kansas.
I was 2019.
He may be right.
I know.
So a theme we're going to hear over the course of the stuff that I'm showing is, and my friend Bob, who is driving, and this guy is my friend Bob, who is driving. Sitting next to him is his wife Rhonda, who says, not in a million years. And back there is my wife Darcy, who also says, not in a million years. So without him, none of this program happens. Why don't we run it?
Let's go for it, guys.
The light is good here. In October, the sun is not directly overhead. There are long mornings and deep afternoons when the sun gives shape to the landscape. There are fields and rolling hills and miles of dirt road that take you to places little seen. There are towns, hundreds of them, each with its own main street, and houses that spread out for a few blocks, each unique in its own way, all alike in that they are shrinking. Hi, I'm Andy Romanoff. I'm a photographer and a writer. I'm reading a story called Picturing Kansas. Kansas came to life, its American white man's life, in the mid-1800s. Pushing the Indians aside, the new American settlers tore up the prairie, then put down railroad tracks and built small settlements. Places where farmers could bring their grain and send their children off to school. The towns prospered as long as farming was the work of families and muscle supplied the labor. Then machines came and farming got bigger, the work of combines and capital, and the small farmer was pushed aside. We like the results, we city people. Cheap food and plenty of it was a lot more visible to us than the farmers leaving their land, and the towns slowly shrinking. Over time, the unplanned economy worked in its unplanned way. Where there is no work and no meaning, the people drift away. The ones who stayed had something that still held them, family maybe, or love of the land, or a job that could still be had. Today, the evidence of that past is visible everywhere, and knowing the story tinges this beauty with sadness. I like to begin a story knowing nothing, feeling my way around. So I came to Kansas without much study. I wandered the landscape and took pictures without knowing what they represented. But soon enough patterns began to emerge, and conversations with strangers began to fill the vast space of my ignorance. From nothing, I came to know just a little bit more, what I could see in a week and what I gathered from my new friends and learned in books. So these words and pictures are only the first results, what I got for poking around a little. This isn't a definitive statement, just a pin on the map. Kansas is where the prairie begins. In the old days, it swept west from here for hundreds of miles. It was a sea of grass so high that the early travelers walked for days without seeing where they were going. They talked of it as an ocean to be endured, and it unsettled them. I didn't know any of that when I first saw it, only that I was standing in the middle of a living thing different than any I had ever known. Dotting the landscape are tiny towns that offer respite from the road. They're quiet, shady, and they only go on for a few blocks. Between the towns, there are thousands of miles of dirt road, a mesh that connects the people to the fields and to one another. Wheat is grown here, and milo, soybeans and corn. The entire state is crisscrossed by dirt roads so farmers can get their crops to town and to market. In the towns, there are grain elevators and storage silos. I came to know that when I saw a silo on the horizon, pretty soon I'd be coming to a town. And when you come to a town, you find railroad tracks, and soon enough you'll probably see a train. All over Kansas, if you sit quiet for a while, you'll hear the sound of a train somewhere in the distance. And any place the train stops, you'll still find life. But if the train passes a town without stopping, then life is only hanging on. This is the Volans store. It's an art gallery set in a ghost town about 8 miles from the nearest living village. Until the 60s, the train stopped here, but after that, it just kept on going. The Volans store is a uniquely Kansas treasure, an abandoned building far from anything. It was saved from destruction, restored and repurposed. It sits alone in the fields, far from people, but it draws life to itself with its sense of purpose. If Kansas is going to be reborn, this is one of the seeds from which the new life will spring. Where people have lived is where they stay when they die. If you drive the 2 lanes across Kansas, you'll see small cemeteries set by the side of the road. When you stop and wander among the headstones, you'll find tiny bits of people's lives. But the land that surrounds the grave tells their stories too. There is a desolate beauty here, with little artifice and no make-believe. The winds blow and the light fades, and there's no one around to interrupt you in your thinking. Places here invite reflection. Silent towns surrounded by fields and sky. Being here, I was sobered by the occasional glimpse of our place in the scheme of things. Only 2 years in the 1860s, that's all the time the Pony Express lasted. But its imprint on American consciousness remains even today. This Pony Express station stands alone in its bit of prairie as it did when it was new. Now the surrounding prairie is gone. Civilization surrounds the station further than the prairie ever did. But if you stand here on a quiet afternoon and don't look too close, you may feel what the ones who lived here in the first days felt. The land sweeping away to infinity, the sky going on forever, and their feet planted firmly on the ground.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that one, Andy.
My pleasure.
Huge project, and one that is so applicable to what we're here to talk about tonight. I just want to see, is there any comments or thoughts on how this project particularly started and how it, turned into this?
I am not a person who deeply plans. I'm not a person who deeply looks ahead. Not always a good thing. And this project started out as a trip to Kansas to photograph motorcycles. Had nothing to do with this story. This is the one that kind of put me on this road, but I didn't go there for that reason. But what happened was I was invited to go and shoot as a farmer, a pig farmer in the northern part of the state who has 100, 200 motorcycles that he's constantly restoring, moving through his place. And I found out about it. He had the largest collection of Vincent motorcycles, which are kind of classic motorcycles that I'm aware of. And I got permission to come and photograph those motorcycles. And so I called Bob. I said, hey, you want to take a ride to Kansas and we'll go up and shoot this stuff? He said, yeah. But then if you're going to go to Kansas, you got to do more than just, go up to this pig farm. So we found out that there was a little show in that place called the Volans store. And so we got there a couple of days early and we went to the Volans store, and then we took our time driving up to, to where the pig farm was. And it just took me away. I mean, how many people here have been to the plains of Kansas? Oh my God, a lot of you. Okay, then it's an incredible place to stand up on some of those overlooks and look at what of those fields remain. It's breathtaking. And so this is the film that came out of that. I met a lot of people. I talked to a lot of people. I thought about it. And I think I'll throw this in at this point now. I think it's important. There are still photographers here. I know one there. I know others who are here. And what was important to still photographers for the longest time when we lived in the world of print was the single picture. Because if you were a Life magazine photographer, a National Geographic photographer, any of those things, one picture to say it all. And I don't think, we have that anymore. I think we have 1 billion photographs a day. We really do, that's the number. And transitory interest. And so I have come to believe in the collection of photographs to create a larger thing, to try and get back to the interest that a thing like Life magazine used to hold. So this is where this comes from.
Awesome.
What are we showing next?
Well, we're on to, it's your first place. First place in
first
LA.
place.
You want to do the intro?
Yeah. So I first went to California. I was born in Chicago. I first came to California when I was 18 years old. And Route 66 was only, it was 16 years old when I was born. So whatever it is, 16 and 18, 30 some odd years. It was not a tourist place. It was the road that you took to get from Chicago to LA. When that song was written, he wasn't saying Chicago to LA and by the way, stop at all these cute little places along the way. He was saying, this is how you get there, So that's the road that I first experienced. And I wanted to do something about that. So I shot another trip I took with Bob. We went to as far as Santa Fe on that one and shot a bunch of Route 66 along the way. But I had an opportunity to show this at a thing called a Photo LA a number of years back. And I tried to make a bunch of stuff at once, and I had to hand it off to an editor. And the editor, who knew me and knew my family, didn't want to just make it into a thing about Route 66. Instead, what he did was he made it into a piece thinking about life. And it went with a story that I had written called The First Place I'd Ever Slept in LA. I'm not going to try and explain it anymore. It explains itself. Why don't we roll it? When I was 18, I drove Route 66 across the country with two other guys, and the memories of that trip have never left me. A few years ago, I started making pictures along Route 66, hoping to bring that past back to life. Here's the story of the journey that sparked the pictures. Chicago, 1960. The cops have just come through Billy Capilano's apartment and warned us if we don't get out of town, we're all going to jail. I'd like to tell you it's a phony beef, but it's not. We've been causing a lot of trouble in the neighborhood, and the cops know it. The we here is me and Billy and another guy whose name I don't remember. Whoever he is, his wife has thrown him out of their apartment and he's moved into Billy's, where we live on mattresses and couches, and the AM radio is always playing. So we empty out the apartment and load it all in my car, beat up 50 Plymouth four-door. We fill it with our clothes and the canned goods we've been stealing from the grocery store, and then we hit the road to California. The trip takes 5 or 6 days. We drive pretty much non-stop, but 2-lane is slow going. None of us have ever been west of Joliet, so the road is a revelation. Along the way we have adventures. We break into a junkyard in the middle of the night to steal a generator. We see the Grand Canyon as dawn breaks, sitting on the ground and eating cold cans of beans. And we drive with a canvas water bag hanging from the antenna through the desert heat. Drive with the windows down and the hot air parching our skins until finally we come to California and face the unbelievable heat of needles in the summertime. We meet some local kids and swim in a pool not far from the railroad tracks, and we wait for the darkness to come so we can hit the road again. California is unbelievable. Driving in the sweet evening, it's all new and bright and modern. There are supersized gas stations and googie restaurants and broad, smooth highways. It's everything that's not Chicago. Finally, we arrive in Los Angeles. We're dazed from our days on the road, exhausted from sleeping in the back seat. More than anything, we want a place to sleep and not be in the car. We head for downtown. Downtown LA feels a lot like Chicago. It has tall buildings and traffic lights and lots of people. We find a parking lot, leave our car, and walk over to a cheap hotel, the King Edward. The King Edward. Even in 1960, the King Edward was little more than a flop house. That didn't matter. To me, it felt special. It was a had-been fancy place, a place where big shots had stayed, and the lobby still remembered the good times. When we got upstairs, the furniture was old and crappy, but the bathroom still had the remains of good porcelain. I remember how happy I was to be there. I spent some time looking out the window, watching the Los Angeles night, imagined a life I might have if I lived here. And finally, I drifted off to sleep. Imagined a life I might have if I lived here. In the morning, I was the first one up. I got dressed, went down to the lobby and walked out onto the street. Somewhere close by, I found a diner and ate breakfast sitting at the counter. When I went back to the room, the guys were already up. We gathered our things and got back in the car. The guy whose name I can't remember wanted to go home by then, so we dropped him off at the Greyhound station and said goodbye. That's all there is. Billy and I left. We headed up to San Francisco. When we got there, Billy decided he was ready to go home too, so he caught another bus, and then I was alone. I stayed. I slept in my car until I got a job, and then I lived in a cheap hotel on Powell Street. Eventually, I came back to LA. I built a life far different from the King Edward, but it had its own little place in the back of my mind. When my future was looking bleak, I might think, well, I can always go back to living at the Eddy, or I gotta quit screwing around. I don't want to end up living at the Eddy. So it was a marker for me. I remembered it both proudly and as a caution. I drove by the King Edward a couple of years ago, still standing in the seedy part of town. Nowadays, though, it looks like a real estate boom might finally be catching up with it, and pretty soon it could be lofts for urban professionals. But the afternoon I saw it, it stood in the grip much as I remembered it from 60 years earlier. I could no longer imagine staying there, but I could still remember when I did. So I'm going to ask those little babies in those pictures to stand up. So far, so good.
So, Andy, I think we're talking about memory, we're talking about the road, it's all very esoteric at some points. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, practical photography. I know, it's a thing on everyone's minds right now. So as you're going down the road, I know different mediums throughout different eras of your life.
Absolutely.
Where are you at? Where did you start? And where do you think you're going?
Well, I started when I was 17. I was born in 1942. You do the math. And I started, the first professional work I did was as a wedding photographer in Chicago. And there was, I don't think the term fine art photographer existed. And I didn't know that I might be one. I just knew I wanted to make pictures of things and people. And I didn't know why. I didn't have a purpose for them. But I made pictures. I made pictures wherever I went. And then I got in the movie business. And so for a long time I worked in the movie business. I shot some really terrible movies. I will tell you which ones you want if you want to know, but just horrible movies. And I worked on a lot of big Hollywood movies as well, but not as a cinematographer, as a camera operator, I got deeply involved in technology. I was involved in bringing advanced technology to the movie business. And then as that started to slow down, I started to shoot stills again. And by that time, digital cameras were just starting to happen. And so I got in kind of early, and I bought a digital camera and hated it, but it did stuff. I was just so excited by the things I could do. And then, it kept on going. I love big projects. This stuff, the road stuff, is the last kind of 10 years, but before that, I did a project called 15,000 Buddhas, which is based on a Buddhist tapestry of millions of tiny little Buddha faces, and I photographed not just Buddhas, but Christs and 3D images, that is to say, three-dimensional imagery from every religion that I could find. And that stuff showed First Congregational Church and museums, things like that. And then I started to shoot motorcycles, and that led me to Kansas, and here we are.
Awesome. So, we were mentioning that, storytelling can take place through slides. It can take place by a collection of images. But at the end of the day, each individual one does have its own story. And I know we wanted to highlight one in particular, which would be right here, and that would be the Chicago Chop Suey. If you'd like to elaborate a little bit more on this image.
I would, and as soon as I get this thing working, there it is. So I actually wrote a story about this one, and it's in the book. And this was published. I just discovered this when I went looking for it.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Andy. What book was that?
Oh.
And where can attendees purchase that book?
So along the way I wrote a book, and it's called Stories I've Been Meaning to Tell You, and There's a few copies, truly only a few copies out there. Not everybody has to buy one. So this is a story about this photograph. It was one of the first things I ever wrote. And it was published on a thing called Medium, a blog place called Medium, in August of 2016. A few years ago, my daughter and I took a drive up the coast to San Francisco. Along the way, we found ourselves on the streets of Guadalupe, California, a small town about 150 miles north of Los Angeles. And driving around the town, we came upon this sweet little oddity of a place, the Chicago Chop Suey building. I loved it instantly and pulled over so I could shoot a picture. And then, because I am who I am, I tried to find out more about the place, but nothing. So we went on our way. The picture languished, having no purpose calling it to life, but I thought it was too sweet to delete. I think we all make pictures like this, pictures made for no particular purpose, except that they call to you and you respond. In this Instagram, Facebook world, the easy answer for pictures like these are to post them and move on. But I like looking for something more. Not more from the picture, but from myself. Because I believe that part of being a photographer is to think about the pictures you make, not just to make them. So here's me thinking about that picture. So this picture probably calls to me because I'm from Chicago and chop suey was the Chinese food of my youth. And the lettering style of the 30s and the older architecture feed my nostalgia, while the closed doors and drawn shades speak of mysteries. The sign on the window says, "Please do not lean your bicycles on the building, thank you." And so does the one on the fence. But why? Was there an epidemic of bicyclists piling their bicycles everywhere? Did something bad happen that the owner wants to prevent from happening again? Then there's the fire hydrant. It's a Jones, by the way, and it sits way above the curb. Look at it. Why wasn't it installed flush? I really wonder about that. Look, I can go on, but this is enough. You get the picture. Like every picture, with careful study, this one reveals details I never saw in real life. One of the beauties of a photograph is the more you look at it, the more it shows you. And sometimes doing that opens up more questions than it answers. So be it. Before posting this picture, I decided to explore the web a little and see what I could find. Searching Guadalupe, Wikipedia told me that some of the small town businesses include El Tapatio and Guadalupe, serving traditional Mexican food. For a quick bite, you can get a slice at Two Guys Pizza, or a burger at King Falafel or Charlie's Place. You can get Chinese food at Panda Sticks or tacos and burritos at Romo's Market. There's a hardware store called the Guadalupe Hardware Company and a Napa Auto Parts. There's 2 tire shops, an auto body shop, and 3 mechanics in town. But there's nothing about this place. A picture on Google search showed me the restaurant had been there unchanged since 2006. But just looking at the building, I already knew that. A search for Chicago Chop Suey Guadalupe revealed that according to a map showing the locations of Japanese American-owned businesses in 1940, this was originally New York Chop Suey. Right? Yeah. The building was constructed in 1926, and that led me to a map entitled Guadalupe, Japanese American Businesses, 1940. It shows a thriving community of Japanese businesses. Where had they all gone? But then the information connected with something I'd already read on Wikipedia, on the Wikipedia page, that the current population of the town was 86% Latin American, and there were very few Asians. I'm going to spare you all the twists and turns that followed. The Japanese of Guadalupe were removed in 1942 and settled in the internment camps. And after the war, only a few came back. So this casual photograph of a little building opens my eyes to a place where history we all know about has happened. It reminds me of the buildings I saw in Poland, in a town called Stawisky, and the stories that opened up for me. I'll tell you about that sometime soon. That's it.
So, I mean, it clearly, it's pretty clear from that story itself that, you know, one photograph holds so much information, so many stories, so many lifetimes, especially when we're talking about a structure It's something that, it's lived probably longer than a lot of people. Could you just elaborate a little bit more on the connection between memory and photography? Come on.
So I think about that a lot, actually. I'm not sure I can give you a clear, simple answer to that, but let's try. When you look at a building, when you go out into the world, it happens right here in Pasadena, it happens here in this house. When you look at a structure that's been standing for a long time, literally thousands of days have passed and lives have happened in, around, as part of that structure. And I think a little bit they will tell themselves to you, these stories. I'm not that kind of, things that the walls speak or anything like that. But I think when you see a building that's been standing for a long time, and I can say this to this audience, I hope, and when you've been around for more than a couple of years, you begin to understand what the building has passed through. And you can imagine what it has passed through. And what I try to do when I make pictures is to see it clearly enough and make that possibility visible for other people.
Awesome. And thank you. Pretty cool. I know we want to move forward to driving up to Casey's farm.
Okay, so this, so there's a story about going up to Ken Kesey's farm. I used to know Ken, and this story will tell you some of that. And I didn't know, well, this story will tell itself in the course of this thing, so I don't want to give it away. I guess I'll just leave it at this. I had some tiny bits, photographs I had made at Kesey's farm, and Super 8 movies that I had shot, and they're in here too.
Ready?
Yep. This is a story called Driving Up to Kesey's Farm. I don't always remember exactly when or how things have happened, but for once I have some help. That's because I'm telling this story with the aid of Terry Ream, one-time editor of the Berkeley Barb and a fine writer who kept a journal as he went. Terry was an excellent traveling companion who in March 2016 left us for parts beyond. When I heard of his passing, it moved me to tell this story about our travels. And when I had a draft together, I wrote this to his companion. March 13th, 2016. Hi, Brenda. I've started writing a story about the trip Terry and Bobby Sky and I took up California coast to Oregon. Because memory is a slippery thing and I want to get it right, I'm wondering if Terry ever told you of a trip that involved drugs and coasting down a mountain road at night with the motor and the lights turned off. If he did, would you mind telling me what Terry told you? Because I'd trust his version more than mine for keeping the basic facts straight. What followed was a flurry of emails back and forth with his companion and his daughter. And as part of that, I received a portion of his journal. And that's a good thing, because sometimes it's hard to tell how much of what I remember is real and how much is even better. This time I get to tell you a story as I remember it, but with the immediate truth of Terry's version from 1970 right alongside. If you'll imagine this as both of us sitting together and telling the story, I think Terry would like it. So Sky and Terry Ream and I got into the van and headed up to Oregon to visit Ken Kesey at his farm. Kesey was a powerful totem for me, a mythic communal figure, and the guy who had turned me on to nitrous oxide a year earlier. That introduction, sitting in the front of the fast bus, the hog farm bus I was living on, had opened my senses to psychedelics in a way nothing else had ever done. Out of that visioned afternoon, I'd gained an altered ego and I'd taken on an alternative identity. I was Captain Gas. Sure, why not pay Ken a visit? We headed out of San Francisco in Terry's van, driving up US 1, cruising along the coastline. In his journal, Terry writes, "In Inverness, we stopped to see Elf and On. Don't get caught in any box canyon," Elf told us as we were leaving. But it did no good. Somewhere along the way, sometime in the late afternoon, we took some psychedelics. First psilocybin, and then an hour later, when we were sure it hadn't worked, some acid. Then all the drugs kicked in and the day turned sweetly cosmic. We parked on a bluff overlooking the Pacific and walked along the cliff, feeling the winds blowing, listening to the surf crashing below. Then whoosh! A big gust of wind grabbed my hat off my head. It went sailing out over the edge of the cliff and skittered down till it landed on the rocks below. Only 50 or 60 feet away, but straight down and no way to get it. Shit, damn, what a fucking disaster. That hat was totally part of me, beloved and unique, and my companion along the way. I had to get it back. So Terry writes, "A few hours later up Route 1, we got out to piss at sunset by the ocean. The wind caught Andy's battered old hat and carried it about 50 feet down into what? Yep, a box canyon. I gotta get that hat," Andy yells and starts scaling down the side. "Remember what Elf told us?" I yell back to him into the heavy wind running along the rim as Andy heads downward. "It's gonna be dark soon and you're never gonna find your way out." "I gotta get that hat," Andy says. "I've had it for years. That hat's been with me everywhere. I gotta get it." "You have to know when to let go," Sky yells down to him. "Let it be." "It's not time yet," Andy answers. Looking down at my hat through the acid, it seemed possible I could climb back up, but in reality, probably not. The water came right into the cliff face at the bottom and crashed on the rocks at the edge. The bluff swept away from our positions in an arc, and then the ends disappeared. The earth was soft. Pieces of it would come away in my hand, and it was steep. It was really steep. I had to have my hat, though, so I started down. Terry writes, "It's getting dark fast now. The wind is howling across the cliff. We're not going to convince him," I yelled to Sky, "so we might as well help." "Wait a minute," I yelled to Andy. "I got 100 feet of rope in the truck. I'll back it up, and we'll tie it to the bumper." And I backed the truck up, and Sky ties the rope to the bumper and lowers himself into the canyon. So this is me now. I climbed back up as Sky headed down. Then Terry and I waited on the edge above, stoned and anxious. But just a few minutes later, Sky was back up and triumphantly handed me my hat. Here's Terry writing again. "In a minute, we're back on Route 1, hat in Andy's hand, now on his head, the acid and psilocybin zooming gently through our veins. Later, that night of a new moon, we turned off the engine, the headlights, and Andy and I get atop the van lying down and looking up at the stars. Sky's at the wheel and brake, guiding us silently down the mountain road in the dark. And then this is me telling you. A few hours later, we were on a 2-lane road winding through redwood forests. Something grand was playing on the radio. Something so good that when we crested a hill and the signal dropped away, we turned back, pulled off the road, and sat there listening. In the darkness, the night was immense. The trees towering over our heads and touching the stars. Terry and I grabbed sleeping bags and spread them on the roof, and then we climbed up and lay looking into the cosmic night. Everything was alive. It was soft and beautiful. Sky got into the driver's seat, and he started the van and slowly drove it onto the road. As soon as the slope of the hill could carry us, he cut the engine, leaving gravity to coast us forward. Drifting down, it seemed the trees and the sky drifted along with us. It was all part of our journey. The breeze was part of us. We were part of it. We were part of it all. We floated down the mountain for maybe 10 minutes, the only sound the shh of our tires. No traffic, no talking, nothing but exquisite sensations. I've been a lot more loaded, but I have never been higher. Finally, the road began to level out, and when we'd slowed to a crawl, Sky pulled over, and Terry and I climbed back inside. For years, I've only had raggedy memories of all of this. Emotionally powerful, but unreal enough I didn't totally trust him. And now I had Terry's corroboration, written just 3 days after it happened. Reading his version tells me that what I remembered was true enough, and it filled my memory with newly remembered life. This thing had really happened, and it was important enough in a moment that he wrote it down, and I remembered it for over 50 years. As I get older, I think a lot about what we remember and why. about the truth there is in the moment and the truth that slowly comes from the telling. Having doubted it once, it's a pleasure for me to have this memory be trustworthy again. Because when you come down to it, memory is only an edited version of our life. What we choose to keep about who we were and what we did and when. Thank you. Thank you.
Where are you sitting? Where are you sitting?
I am sitting in,
Lone Pine.
what's the name of the hotel?
Oh, it's the famous one there.
No, it's
It's the Dow Villa.
the Dow Villa in Lone Pine. Yeah,
In Lone Pine,
yeah. That's the lobby of the
at the south end of town.
and why at the very end I finished reading and then all of a sudden you guys didn't hear it because you guys were clapping, but out of nowhere clapping comes. When I started reading that story, I was reading it to Bob, and there was
I was
nobody else.
shooting it.
Yes, you were shooting it
And
exactly.
I kept yelling at people to get the hell out of the way.
And I was reading, I was not paying attention. And while I was reading the story, people came into the lobby and they saw what was going on. And they all started sitting down. And I looked up and there's a crowd there. And they're all applauding.
It's true.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
happened at Farmer's Market too, you remember that?
Yes. Anyway,
So, we live in a pretty big country. There are a lot of roads going across that country. We've been maybe even hyper fixated on Route 66 lately. Could be because we're in SoCal. Could be because it is the centennial. But do you want to elaborate or add some of your
Sure.
thoughts on
anybody here know Highway 50, interstate highway, not interstate, but, okay. It is,
Oh, yeah.
This is the first interstate highway that goes from the East Coast to the West Coast. It was finished, oh gosh, I don't remember the date, but
that? Anyone got Google?
it was finished sort of in the 30s or something like that, just about the same time as Route 66. 66 takes you from Chicago to LA. This one takes you all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast, goes through 12 states, maybe more. One of the states it goes through is Nevada. And it goes through Nevada, it's about 400 miles across the state, and there's nothing there. There's a handful of towns, I think 7 or 8 towns in that 400 miles. And so Nevada, because they're not dumb about this stuff, named it the loneliest road. No, I take that back. Life magazine, in a story about this road in 1950, called it the loneliest road in America. And Nevada, not being dumb about it, decided they were gonna make that into a tourist attraction, a road that nobody goes on. So this is a film that we made about it. In 1950, Life magazine named Highway 50 the loneliest road in America, and it probably was. It was a road built before the interstates, and it made its way through deserts, farmlands, and small towns, the places interstates do their best to pass by. As a result, Highway 50 is a time capsule of the last century, a time before brands and franchises made every place look the same as every other. So for me, it's a road worth seeing. I first learned about Highway 50 when we took a trip to Great Basin National Park. In a story I wrote about getting there, I said, once you leave Hinckley, Utah, you're pretty much on your own till you come to the Borderline Casino, about 90 miles down the road. I'd been driving for hours on deserted two-lane without passing any signs of life. It's the kind of road where if you stop to pee, you can just let loose anywhere you want, 'cause no one's going to see you. Eventually, Highway 50 took us to a little bend in the road called Baker, Nevada. And in Baker, there's a general store called the Bristlecone. And browsing there, I picked up a little passport book called the Official Nevada Highway 50 Survival Guide. It turned out to be a gimmick dreamed up by the little towns along the road, a way to get you to stop and spend a few minutes. I was enchanted by the premise right away. The idea is that you stop in these towns and they stamp your passport. Then when you filled it up, you send them the last page, and they send you back a certificate celebrating the fact you survived the trip. I know it's silly, but the minute I saw it, I knew I had to do it. A couple of months later, Bob Harvey and I set out to make the crossing. Bob's the guy who often drives when I want to make a road trip. He's a wonderful companion, willing to put up with my, "Hey, wait a second, pull over there, will you? I just want to hike out into that field to get a better angle," way of making pictures. Darcy, my beloved, wants to kill me for stuff like that. Flying up to Reno, we grab a car and drive to Carson City, where we get a night's sleep, then head east into the morning. Our first stops are Silver City and Virginia City, fabled names of the Old West, then Dayton, where we get a stamp, and then a few miles further down the road, something unexpected and magical happens. We stop at Fort Churchill. Fort Churchill was built in 1860 and only operated till 1869, but in its heyday, as many as 300 soldiers lived here, and travelers, settlers, prospectors, and Pony Express riders all passed through. What remains now of the fort are the walls of the buildings, scrubbed clean of the life they once held. But something else remains as well. The wind and the light and the hills all around, all the same as they ever were. In the quiet, the old encampment comes alive for us, and we imagine the life that used to bustle here. It's the first moment of the trip when a place reveals itself, and we stand grateful, silently witnessing it. We spend a sunshiny morning walking the streets of Fallon, Nevada, and see 100 years of layered history. The 20s, 30s, 40s, and more keeping each other company. Everywhere we look, there is evidence of earlier times when places were made by people, not corporations. Then we head down the road to Middlegate Station. Middlegate's been here for a long time. It's a bar and a restaurant, a few gas pumps, and 8 motel rooms. There's nothing else around for almost 50 miles. It was built by the Overland Stage Company in 1859 to provide food and lodging for stagecoach travelers. We walk into the bar, find a table, and pretty soon Cheyenne comes over. She smiles a big smile and welcomes us, then spends a few minutes telling us about the place and taking our orders. After another 60 miles, the road takes us to Austin, where we stop at the Landers County Courthouse and meet Donna Souza. Donna tells us stories about the Austin of earlier days and invites us to explore the jail cells in the basement. A long time ago, the townspeople here dragged some bad guy out of a cell and hung him from the balcony outside. Knowing that takes the quaintness off the place and the real gets a little more real. It's a long way between places around here, but it's satisfying to drive nonetheless. Eureka, when we come to it, is what remains of an 1860s boomtown. 10,000 people once lived here, but nowadays probably 500 is more like it. Still, it feels alive. It has museums and a functioning opera house, restaurants, places to stay, and people who take pride in their past and like to show it off. Here's the press room of the Eureka Sentinel. For a long time it was a newspaper, but nowadays it's a museum. Here's the actual room, filled with the equipment that produced the paper starting back in the 1800s. In those days, the custom was for the printers to slap the ads they printed up on the walls, so there they remain for us 100 years later. Late in the afternoon, we drive to Ely and the place we're going to stay tonight, the Hotel Nevada. I love old hotels, and the Nevada, built in 1929, fills the bill. For not much money, I booked the Kennecott Suite on the top floor and gazed from my window at the town stretched out below. Ely remains a part of the Old West. There's gambling, mining, and bordellos still in operation, all of them looking a little down at the heels, but after all, isn't that the way it ought to be? After a good night's sleep, we head over to the Railway Museum to explore the old trains living out their retirement. The museum stretches along the tracks of the East Ely Yards, a giant place filled with enough old equipment to start a new railroad, if someone wanted to. 100 years ago, this place bustled with activity, trains coming and going, bringing passengers and the things people wanted to this faraway place. When it's time to move on, we head for Great Basin National Park. The road runs straight and narrow for a while, then starts climbing up into the twists and curves of the mountains. About lunchtime, we arrive at the park, find the Great Basin Cafe, and eat a fine BLT in the sunshine and crisp mountain air. And when our bellies are full, we drive up to Alpine Lakes Trail to hike for a while and take a few pictures and stare and wonder at everything that surrounds us. And finally, it's time to head to Baker, our last stop on the loneliest road and the first place I ever heard about it. Here, so far from anywhere, I walk into the Bristlecone General Store again and say hi to Liz Woolsey, its owner, who stamps our passports for the last time and brings this journey to a happy end. In 1950, life...
Sorry, guys.
We're going to watch that one twice because...
That'd be 14 minutes. So, a photograph, you can see it, you can probably touch it, you don't want to taste it, you can, but, how I wanted to see, incorporating audio, we're watching these photographs in session as slides, we're hearing your voice, we're hearing stories, but, how else would you incorporate, or how else do you incorporate audio into your work?
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What a good question.
Not scripted at all, guys.
We've kept you for a while. I got one more thing I want to show you. There was a whole lot of places because Nick wrote a very ambitious list of all the places you were going to see, and we haven't even touched on them.
Hey,
So
I thought it was quite lovely, though. do I get too far with my script?
I made something brand new for this, and it's a collection of photographs, not in any particular order, but just lovely pictures of the road and of towns and stuff. And it needed a piece of music. And at first I thought maybe I was gonna use Route 66, but that wasn't right. But looking at the 100 different versions of Route 66, I came to one recorded by a couple of women named Beth and Cindy. Never heard of them. And then I saw that there was another song just below it called The Last Highway. And I thought, I'll give it a listen. And I put it on. It took my breath away. It just was I thought, the perfect song to go with the edits that I had made. And so that's what you're going to see.
I said I'm going home. Slow me down and find myself again. Try to make some sense of my life. I said I'm not so sure. Living on the road is where it's at anymore. Keeping the time, keeping score, feeling tight. And we've sung all the songs about the highway. There's gypsy lady looking for a place to stay. This is the last highway song you'll hear from me. You think you have to say living with me was just another day, just another way to ease your soul. The moon is so high, I can't deny it's got me flying, flying to your doorstep. And we've sung all the songs about the highway. There's nothing new for us to see. One more gypsy lady looking for a place to stay. This is the last highway song you'll hear from me. This is the last highway song you'll hear from me.
So that song was written by Beth and Cindy. It was written by Cindy, actually. Cindy's passed away. It took me 3 days of internet searching to run down Beth. And she lives in Sandpoint, Idaho. And she is 83 years old. And she gave me permission to use this song. I would really appreciate it if you guys would let her know how you liked it. Do me a favor, pan the camera around. Just, yeah.
Come on, keep it coming.
Thank you, Beth.
Awesome.
Questions?
Yeah, I do actually have a question for you, Andy.
Okay.
I'd love it if you could expand upon, the actual title of the program itself, The Places in Between.
Sure. We travel by airplane and we travel by interstate. Most of us, most of the time. And I think we miss a really important, a huge, amazing country that we are fortunate enough to live in. And from the number of people who I saw when I first asked how many of you knew, something of these places, I think I'm preaching to the converted here. I think you came here maybe because you already know that and understand it.
And then I'll pass this to you.
But it's really important, I think, to get out of what we know and to go to the places that we have not yet seen and to freshen our experiences. I love it, and I hope to run into you guys out there.
And we do have time for questions. Pretty open to the room.
Wonderful presentation, thank you.
Thank you.
You've obviously done a lot of, thinking, and I would call you a philosopher in addition, a writer and a, cinematographer, photographer. this is something as we get older that gets richer and deeper, but I do worry about the next generation. And I'm curious what you think about our possibly losing this reflective, philosophical view, and what can we do about that?
I don't believe that human beings change much generation to generation. I know a couple of kids back over here. One of them, they're not quite 40 yet.
Got your genes.
You know, I think it's a natural and human thing. I hope it is.
Me too.
Yeah. I see hands everywhere. So.
You know, we cycle in America very quickly. It's one of our strengths, but it's a weakness as well, because we don't treasure the past the way we should. And here you are treasuring the past, documenting the past, remembering the past. It's so, I'm so grateful that you do it. And what inside you brings you to that form of art?
My God, I don't know. Okay, some of you know me. Some of you know me for a long time. I was the most thoughtless. I mean, from the stories you heard, you could imagine the truth of that. This did not come to me until well into middle age, and has really come to me in the last 20 years or so. So I don't know.
And thank you so much. That was a great presentation.
You're welcome.
I've had the opportunity to travel many places in the world, and a consistent theme that I've come across in my travels, almost no matter what country I've been in, is people want to come to America and go down Route 66. They don't know, they have this image of a mythology about our country, but this road stands for something larger than America.
Absolutely.
And I wondered if some experiences you had, and I know you ran into people from other countries on your drive, and I wondered if you had any thoughts on what this road really means to humanity, not just America.
Wow, that's a wonderful question. I love the fact that wherever you stop, you know, when you travel Route 66, wherever you stop, you run into people from other places. And it's telling a story that, you know, does not really reflect America of 2026, but it reflects a fine America that is a wonderful meeting place, you know. And I have to say, it's not just Route 66. When you do run into people who are traveling America in the national parks, you know, or out on those small roads, boy, oh boy, they just, you know, they have such a good opinion of what they're seeing. I think we're enormously lucky to have that stuff available.
Thank you.
Welcome. Yes, sir.
I see a lot of Walker Evans influence, but I'm kind of
I'll take that.
remarkable to see everything is straight on. So what are you thinking that puts you straight on, whether part of the sign is covered? What do you include? Why are you facing everything and every person straight on?
Yeah. I used to think of myself as a photographer. And as a photographer, I used to practice a lot of technique, you know, strong angles, wide angle compositions, all of that sort of stuff. And I am not in any way belittling that. But I have come to believe that my strength is as an illustrator, not so much. I mean, as a photographer, I have a pretty good set of skills, but my intention, my desire, is to illustrate, is to give you something to see. Another thing you'll see, and I think this is, is kind of a Walker Evans thing as well, is almost every picture I make is about one thing. Everything else is sublimated to that, because I want you, don't look. We are so immediately, okay, yeah, sure, next. My only hope is to make the strongest, simplest image that I can, in the hopes that it'll capture you for a moment.
And then could we have some questions from the other side of the room?
Watching your wonderful work, I was wondering if you were a fan of William Lee Sheepman's book, Blue Highway.
Oh, sure.
But about the things that you're loving.
But I did not come across him until after I had been to Kansas. Yeah, no, he was one of the things I discovered from going to Kansas. And then I said, oh God, this guy's, he was there. Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, we have
Sure.
Lou in the
My
back.
wife and I just returned a couple of days ago from a 2-week trip on Route 66 from here to Tucumcari. And I just, first of all, I'd like to say you really captured the feeling of the back roads really well in the small towns. Terrific job on that.
Thank you.
What I noticed in particular was the difference in the way the old Route 66 kind of caresses the land. It just rolls with the hills. The interstate highways just, they blow the hills out, level them off, cut everything off.
Yeah.
It's a totally different experience driving on the back roads.
Yes.
And it's also much more relaxed and easy to drive. So I just wanted to say to everybody, if you have a chance, get out on the back roads and drive them. It's wonderful scenery. We saw scenery in western Arizona on old Route 66 from Needles to Kingman.
Yep.
It is so incredibly different from what you see on the freeway. And that's what you see everywhere you go on the back roads.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you.
And just one more question, please.
Wonderful storyteller.
Thank you.
So how'd you move to Ken Casey and never get to a star?
So I used to be a member of a commune called the Hog Farm.
Oh.
Does that answer the question completely? Ken rolled on the bus one day. I had a tank, pulled it up, stuck the hose in my mouth. Not just me, everybody stuck the hose in my mouth. I was gone. It took me years, and I'm not telling you it was a good idea.
Any last questions, guys?
I just think it's important, I'm listening to this. This is Route 66 Centennial.
Right.
I'm sure you all realize that. The hoopla and the parties that are going on and the restoration from all 8 states that it goes through is very important. I think the idea that we don't remember our roots, I don't believe that. I think we do. And traveling with Andy through these towns and listening to the stories that these people really wanted to tell us about their town and about situations, it restored my faith in history of certainly the country. I think it is important to people, and every now and then you realize it, like this centennial of 66.
Yeah.
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 So I'm not depressed over it.
You want to say thank you? I want to say thank you.
I'm like, let's both say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
I think I have a little bit longer of a thank you than Andy, maybe. But
Okay, go ahead.
I want to say thank you all for joining us tonight. We're Pasadena Heritage. We have been a nonprofit organization for almost 50 years, going on our 50th year in 2020. 2027, thank you. 1977 was when this all started.
Wow.
We work in historic preservation, trying to understand the space that we all inhabit, historic structures, stories, and so much more. Plenty of programs that you can all also attend. So definitely check us out on Instagram at Pasadena Heritage, our website, pasadenaheritage.org. I'm going to say one last thing, Andy, and then I have to pass the mic over. I want to say thank you so much to Andy Romanoff, my new friend, for joining us and for, enlightening us with this amazing conversation. It is so appreciated, and I hope that everyone leaves tonight feeling as inspired as I do by your work.
Well,
so thank you again. And while I still have a captive audience, I'm going to hand this over to Brian Allen Baker. He is our board member, vice chair of education. He is the guy that helps me make all this happen, and he's just going to say a few words.
Sure, thank you. Andy, wonderful. That was fantastic. It really was.
Thank you.
Not just the fact that you chronicle, as you do, the things you observe, but you tell other people that experience. And I felt every story you told. It was a really great experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just curiosity, show of hands. Everybody here a member of Pasadena Heritage? The answer is no. You should be.
I agree, guys.
What we do sometimes is quite subtle, but what we do is try to preserve history in many different ways, both architecturally and culturally. And so I invite you to look at our website, become a member, check out the various programs we have. I think this year we have close to 75 different educational programs. It's one of many this year.
We're busy.
And we're very busy. And so you're invited back into the house. The house is also the home of over 12 not-for-profit organizations, many of which are also historic-based and culturally based. And so you're invited back. Thank you very much for attending, and we'll see you next time, hopefully.